Do you want to know if your fruits and vegetables need to be refrigerated? While most fruits and veggies fare fine in the refrigerator, there are a number that don't need to be stored in the fridge at all. There's probably a bunch of stuff in your fridge right now that you can totally take out. And the list of fridge items you can stash elsewhere is way longer than you'd guess. So join us as we'll explore 12 items you don't need to refrigerate, but are probably taking up room in your fridge right now. Make sure to watch till the end so you don't miss the most interesting one. Number 12. Vegetables. There are a lot of shelf-stable veggies. Most of us know to keep potatoes, onions, and garlic in a cool, dark place. Sweet potatoes as well. They can actually get too dense in the middle if they're kept cold. Garlic can even prematurely sprout if it's kept in the fridge due to the moisture. But did you know that there are a ton of other vegetables that can and will survive at room temperature? Tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, and eggplant can all live on your counter. Water-dense veggies like cucumbers and tomatoes do much better out of the fridge. Their high water content means they can partially freeze in your fridge, leaving them with that weird, mushy, mealy texture. How much room will you free up in your fridge if you remove these veggies? Number 11. Sauces. How many of these are in your fridge right now? Soy sauce, fish sauce, hot sauce? Turns out none of these actually need to be kept cold. You know how barbecue restaurants always have hot sauce and barbecue sauce sitting on the tables? Or sushi restaurants with their soy sauce out? Yep, you've been lied to. These staples will do just fine in the pantry. These sauces can last up to a year in the pantry. I've never had a bottle of hot sauce last longer than a week, but that's still good to know. Number 10. Fruit. While it can be nice to have a cold piece of fruit on a hot day, you don't actually need to store much of your fruit in the fridge. Apples, bananas, oranges, peaches, nectarines, even berries can all be stored on the counter. Many of them will keep longer that way, and you'll clear out some space for other foods in your fridge. Win-win. You'll also notice your fruits having a deeper, sweeter taste when they're stored and eaten at room temperature. That's because the cold and moisture can cause fruits to turn mushy more quickly. Your berries in particular will last much longer. Another pro tip: wash your berries with a mixture of water and white vinegar, and then keep them in a bowl on the counter, and you'll never have a soggy, rotten bottom layer of berries again. Number 9. Salad dressing. This one's a bit more complicated. If you use salad dressings that are oil-based and do not contain yogurt, cream, or mayo, they don't need to go in the fridge. In fact, they may taste better if used at room temperature. I don't know about you, but I kind of hate when I make a beautiful salad and the dressing is super cold. It just seems wrong and messes with the texture experience of the salad. Call me a snob, but it really makes a difference. Some people even store mayonnaise-based dressings in the pantry. That seems like a gamble, but hey, to each his own? Number 8. Basil. Basil is one of those herbs that soaks up the flavors of everything around it. If you don't want your basil to pick up that stale, bready taste that can live in the fridge, try this instead. If you cut your basil along the stems like fresh flowers, you can store it in a jar with some water at the bottom. Just make sure it isn't too close to the stove, which can lead to wilting. Number 7. Jams and honey. Honey is the only food that never spoils, so it definitely doesn't need to be in the fridge. Jams and jellies are a different story. They can go bad, so once the jar is opened, it should be kept refrigerated. However, if you find yourself storing unopened jars of jam or jelly in the fridge, you can actually move those to the pantry, where they will last up to a year. Think about it. When you pick these up at the store, they're on a shelf, not in a cooler. They're safe at room temperature due to the high acid content in these products. Number 6, avocados. Avocados are notorious for being hard as a rock until you look away for a second, and then they're too soft. Some people have taken to storing them in the fridge to prevent this, but it's only prolonging the inevitable. Keeping your avocados in the fridge will simply keep them from ripening, so only put them in there if you have too many and don't want them all to ripen at the same time. If you're storing a cut avocado, always store it in the fridge. Once they're cut, they do need to be kept cold to prevent spoiling. Number 5. Fresh mozz. Don't get this mixed up with shredded mozzarella like you'd keep in the fridge for pizzas. But if you come across fresh mozzarella, you actually should leave it on the counter. That's because the fridge is cold enough to actually toughen the outer bits of your soft cheese. And that's just a shame. The best part of fresh mozz is that soft, delicate flavor. While the rule of thumb with cheese and other dairy products is to refrigerate them, this is one delicious exception to the rule. Number 4. Pickles. Pickles are similar to jams and jellies. Before the jar is opened, it's perfectly fine to leave them in your pantry. Once they're opened, they can last years as long as they're kept cold. And that's really just for the pickles from the store that are kept in the cold section. Those pickles haven't been canned. But if you make pickles at home with the proper safety precautions, they can actually stay in the pantry almost indefinitely. Be sure to do your research, though. Number 3. Butter. Did you know that salted butter is safe to be kept in the pantry? I know it sounds fake, but trust us, it's true. Raise your hand if your grandma kept butter in a dish in the cupboard. Those grandmas were onto something. Not only will your butter taste better at room temperature, it's so much easier to spread it when it's soft. Another option for the purists out there is a butter crock. These are really cool. They are opaque, which protects the butter from light, and they use water to create a seal. Your butter will stay fresh and delicious almost indefinitely in a crock. Another reason to keep the butter out of the fridge is that it will soak up the flavor of anything else near it. No one wants their butter to taste like last night's fish tacos. Number 2. Eggs. Sometimes. This one is a bit complicated. If you are in the US and you buy your eggs from a supermarket, they do need to be refrigerated. That's because the US requires eggs to be washed before they hit the supermarket. This removes the cuticle, a protective film that is found on the shells. The cuticle is what protects the eggs from bacteria, while still allowing for oxygen to permeate the shell. So, if you collect your eggs from a backyard coop or buy them straight from a farmer, your eggs will still have their cuticles, making them shelf-stable. In fact, most of the world keeps eggs at room temperature. So only keep your eggs in the pantry if they haven't been washed. If they're from a traditional grocery store in a country like the US that washes their eggs, chuck them in the fridge. Number 1. Ketchup and mustard. Most condiments don't need to be kept in the fridge. Ketchup is the one most of us think of when we think of commonly refrigerated items that don't need to be kept cold. But did you know that mustard can also be kept at room temperature? In fact, some people say that the taste improves greatly when it's left out. That's because of the acids in the mustard developing more flavor when it's allowed to come to room temperature. So, next time you're having a barbecue, don't worry about those bottles of condiments sitting out on the picnic table. They'll be just fine. Thank you so much for watching, and if you don't want to miss amazing tips like these, check out our most popular videos. See you in the next video.